Hello beer tubers and welcome to another beer review with me, Peter, the master of hoppers. Today checking out a beer that I actually wanted to use for a Throwback Thursday episode, but I went on the channel and had a look and I actually never reviewed this, which is weird because this here was my very first Imperial Stout. And I was positive I did this. This is from Samuel Smith and it's their Samuel Smith's Imperial Stout. I was positive I did a video on this, but I didn't. I was sure like back in the day I went through all the Samuel Smith beers, but maybe I just couldn't get this one. But yeah, like for me, historically getting into beer, English beer was my jam. I loved everything British. ESB was my favorite style. I loved ESBs and then gravitated into IPAs. And then I discovered the American IPA and I was like, whoa, you know. But yeah, I love the fruitiness of English beers originally. And that's why I loved English beer. It was the esters, it was all the marmalade, all that goodness. And also, you know, a big influence was that locally we had a cask bar, still do. And I would go there in high school, after, like if we were going to a party or whatever. Denmark legal drinking age is 18 or 16, 18 to go out to bars. But we would go there sometimes and have a few pints and whatnot. And in the beginning, it was really fun to go there as well because you could chug really fast because it was cask beer. It just like went down like really fast because there's like so soft carbonation. So we'd like slam pints of cask ale and whatever. But it was like, it also of course tasted great, and we went there all the time. And we walked through a lot of you know, British beer, me and some friends, and you know, in the beginning before rate beer and all that stuff, it was just going to the supermarket. And then at one point it was trying all the different random lagers, and then it was me who discovered British beer. Actually, it was with my dad. I was shopping once. I bought a British beer, Woodhouse and Hall Badger Brewery. That was my eye opener. They're golden champion. But you know, then later on, I'd always bring these English ales, and my fucking classmates, my friends, and like they were getting on the English beer train, and we just love English beers. And we went to London on a school trip, and we went to Fuller's Brewery, and we drank so much. Like it was amazing. And then when we went out here, sometimes we'd go to Tusindfryd in Aalborg. Tusindfryd is a legendary venue for music. They've had so many bands play there, and it's a lot of underground bands that play there too and whatnot. But we went there sometimes for metal gigs and whatnot. And then the cool thing was that most places in Aalborg where I live, there was not many like, you know, music venue type bars where you could actually get like crafty beers or microboot beers or whatever. But they had a selection there, mainly like OG stuff back then. It was like Belgian beers and whatnot. They had this. And then that was the first time I ever had a Russian Imperial Stout. It was going out one time. And it was like, oh, they had this on. I actually never had an Imperial Stout. I had Guinness and I liked Guinness. So I'm like, yeah, well, let me try that. And I tried it. I was like, wow, whoa, this is so good. And like, I was just like, this is an Imperial Stout. It was so funny. And then after that, I think the next beer I discovered was Brooklyn's. And that's quite a few years down, or a couple of years down the line at least. But then I remember also discovering Brooklyn's Black Chocolate Stout, which was up at a heavy metal bar locally, actually, that doesn't exist anymore. They had a small amount of that, and also Monster Ale, the barley wine. We drank that all the time when we went out because they were strong. So you got hammered, you got bang for your buck, and they tasted good. So that was the deal back then. It wasn't only shitty beer. We were just exploring great beer, which is weird doing that in such a young age. That's why I started this channel when I was like a kid. I was 19. I'm 33 now. Wow, that's crazy. But this is the Samuel Smith Russian Imperial Stout. Historic, classic stuff. Made with water, malted barley, cane sugar, hops, and yeast, as all their beers pretty much are. They use cane sugar. I'm not sure if it's for fermentation or what it is, but it's pretty much in all Samuel Smith's beers. They say this is a rich, flavorful brew of the type once exported from Britain to Imperial Russia. And then it has a deep chocolate color, scented barley nose, with licorice notes and lingering finish of coffee. Enjoy with steak or poivre. Poivre. I don't know what that is. Stilton cheese or on its own as a digestive. And I think online they also talk about how it tasted like roasted barley. Like to think of that being like a marketing term at one point in beer history. Nowadays it's like made with chocolate syrup, coconut, whatever, like just going nuts. But yeah, this is gonna be fun to revisit because I haven't had this beer in years. So let's check it out. Pours, and also it's much weaker than its modern counterparts. It's 7%. And actually, fun thing, there's a local dive bar, and they have a cabinet of like old beer bottles that's on display. They have a bottle of like Courage Directors from the 70s. They're Imperial Stout. And I once when I was way younger, when we went there one time going out for beers with school. Was it school? I think it was, but it was university. And I wanted to buy it, but they wouldn't let me, even though I offered to pay like I think I used to like, I would pay 300 crowns for that bottle. I'm like, no, it's an ornament. But yeah, it's black. It's black. I mean, it's actually it's pitch black. There's not really much light bleeding through. Maybe here at the top of the glass, but otherwise it looks very nice. A nice tan looking head. Let's check out this bad boy. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I haven't had a beer like this in a long time. It is so different from the modern interpretation of Imperial Stout. Very different. Butterscotch, marmalade, blackcurrant marmalade, toasty notes. There's a bit of coffee, light chocolatey notes, hints of almost, there's no oats in here, but there's something that reminds me of like oaty notes or vanilla. But this is, yeah, custard almost even. Yeah, this is totally OG. This just reminds me of going to the wharf and like after I discovered this, I think another was Harvey's. Was that the porter or something like that? Some of these OG English cask ales. It just really reminds me of that. Like a huge bomb of esters paired with these roasty malts. Like, and a big thing I often got in stouts and still do that are this British in style because of the fruity esters. I often get something that reminds me of blackcurrant wine gums. Wine gums, the gummy candies from England. Bassett's, all sorts. If you know that candy, or also there's also Bassett's wine gums. Bassett's wine gums with blackcurrant flavor. That's exactly what I get. There's also some licorice for sure. It smells so old money, man. It smells like so old money. Like it's crazy, but it's really putting a smile on my face. Let's try it. Cheers. It is so vastly different from any modern stout. And you have to really, if you drink this beer, please don't shit on it. Look at it in the perspective and the big scheme of things. Like, this was how these beers used to be. They didn't used to be massive fudge bombs and chocolate heavy craziness and whatnot. Those beers are fucking awesome. I love big modern stouts, and the modern barrel aged stouts are just some of the finest beverages around. But this still has a lot of frickin' charm, and it is just like I haven't had this in years. I think it's been at least, I don't know, maybe I'll have to go and check on Untappd. At least I'm thinking 5 years ago or something like that. I think the last time I had this was maybe like at a random mini beer festival at a grocery store or a supermarket where they did like booths with importers of beer, where there was one of the people that import this in Denmark, they were pouring it. I think that might be the last time I had it. That might be 5 years ago, but it's like, wow. It's just like soon and then take you back in time. Like there's so many. I'm being flooded with like memories of high school and shit like that now. Yeah, we thought this was the coolest shit. Or I was like, wow, this is just amazing. And I always had like a few bottles of this in stock at home at my mom's, and I'd bring like one of this to parties, and then other things. Like this was one of like the finisher type beer, and then you drink shitty beer or whatever. Always a couple great beers, and then for until I just went nuts exploring new stuff all the time. Like all beer geeks do. Like I need to try that and that and that. Oh, what's this? And like when beer was new. But this is still really great, I think. It's vastly more acidic also than most modern stouts. It has like tart berry type flavors. Again, the blackcurrant. It has like that charred, ashy, burnt roastiness with like a little bit of a toffee butterscotch. Definitely butterscotch. Like it does have a bit of that English butterscotch diacetyl type thing. But I think when it's combined with the yeast esters and everything, it's pretty nice in like classic English beer. I think that's where it kind of works. So only places for me it really works. I don't think butterscotch works in lagers, for example. Like a lot of people say, like, yeah, but that's a part of like Pilsner or Kelp. It's like I just don't like that in Pilsners. But in a like a jammy English beer, I do. I like it's really good. Like you can't rate this with modern glasses. You have to take on the glasses of classic English beer and like old school beer and like old school Imperial Stout. Like you can't if you rate this up against like it doesn't have a chance. Like if you rate 100% according to flavor, like I think most people modern beer drinkers will trash this because they've never had the experience of this. They think stout is a completely different thing. They think stout is like over the top and crazy and sweet and fudgy and all this. Like that's really recent. Like stouts used to be something like this. And I can also see like drinking this and thinking back like wow, like gravitating from Guinness to this is actually a huge step because this compared to Guinness and think about that back then if Guinness was my first stout and I had something like this, the difference in flavor. I actually remember being an advocate of Beamish instead because locally we got so Guinness was all over the place with brand bars and whatever, but at the Wharf, the Irish pub, they refused to serve Guinness because it was a big company beer. They always only served small company beers, craft. Before it was called craft, really microbrew beer. Well, yeah, I guess it was called craft in the States. Um, they always served that, and back then Beamish was independently owned, and that was their go-to Irish dry stout. And I was like, yeah, it's much better than Guinness. Beamish is so much better. I don't know who owns them now. I don't know if you can still get Beamish, but that was like, and then they changed it to Rasslers by Porterhouse. Whenever Beamish got bought out, which is also a fucking. I need to go review that at the Wharf. That's like one of the best dry stouts. I could drink that all day. Um, but yeah, it's just throwing me back, and I'm not gonna rate this the way I am due to nostalgia. I'm gonna because like you also have to filter through. But if you think of like if you've drunk as much beer as I've had to this point and tried so many styles and tried the best of the best in terms of hype and all these crazy things, you have a reference of so many things. And like I think the reference of like you again think in references. Don't compare apples and oranges all the time. Like I see you see that so much with people, especially I think it's especially people who are new to craft. I'm guilty of it. I would have like if I drank this when I was well into the crazy craft beer years where I was like, well, this is like it couldn't get like it had to be crazier, crazier, crazier. I would like drink this back in the day and be like, wow, I used to love this. This beer sucks now because it's not like over the top and crazy. That's never what this beer was about. Like you have to also look at the beer in context and look at what the brewer intended to do with the beer. And there's so many things. It's not just like just. I think people should when they rate, they should think a bit more broad about things instead of just thinking I dislike this because I prefer the beer. Like these kind of things. Just think objectively a little bit and think in grand scopes because there's a reason why this beer tastes like this and it's a well brewed beer. There's like the accidental can be an off flavor, but this is put in there for a reason. This is in there for a reason. So like I think a lot of people will shit on beer because they think it's bad, but a bad beer is not a beer. If you rate at least, it's not a beer that is bad to your taste. It's a beer that's bad because of bad brewing practice or off flavors or whatnot. And a lot of newcomers to beer do not know anything about this. So I think it's important. Like, critique all you want, but also just think a little bit objectively with like what is this? Why was this beer made? Why is this around? So what's like it's a historic brewery that's been existing since 1800 something, and brewing classic beer like they've always done. And that's just what they do. Like not everything has to be modernized into craziness, even though I love the crazy stuff too. But rant over. What a fun little rant. And I think there's room for this, and sometimes I would rather take something like this over other things. Although I'd say I'd rather drink their Oatmeal Stout or their Teddy Porter, just because it's lower ABV. Lower ABV, like 7%. But lower ABV beer is my wheelhouse these days, unless I want a crazier flavor experience. 90 is my grade for this. It's really good. It's really good classic English Imperial Stout. It's got the flavors that you want from this kind of style. It's got the jamminess of esters. It has the roasted malt profile. It's quite slick. It's soft. It's velvety. It's not like really chewy and fat. in the mouth, like as a lot of modern beer. But it's just really good. Actually, also surprisingly, really dug their nut brown ale. I might even take that over this, to be honest, as well. Just again, lower strength, sessionable beer. I love that kind of stuff these days, unless we're geeking out and sharing. So, yeah, and I need for Samuel Smith Imperial Stout. Really, really nice stuff. My first ever Imperial Stout, still really nice, historically classic, as it's always been. And this is a beer that's like, don't ever change. Don't change the artwork. Don't do, like, this is what Samuel Smith's beer needs to look like. Like, you know, it needs to look like something coming out of a history book. So, yeah, nice. If you guys had this one in recent times, let me know what you thought of it. As always, remember to comment, subscribe, check out the Facebook fan page and Twitter and Instagram. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Ring the bell for future notifications about videos. And I'm going to say cheers. Wow, that was a long spiel. See you guys in another beer review.